Most men grow up believing one lie about women, that women want love, but men want sex. So men try to be safe, polite, available, predictable. And then they're confused when she says, I don't feel the spark. Here's the uncomfortable truth no one prepares men for. Women want lust too. They crave desire, intensity, and chemistry just as much as men do. The problem, most men are never taught how women experience it. Let's talk about the dating truth men miss. Women experience desire as deeply as men, but are taught to hide it. From an early age, many women learn that wanting is dangerous, that longing too openly risks judgment, rejection, or being reduced to something small and shameful. Desire in men is often framed as natural, even expected, while desire in women is treated as something that must be controlled, softened, or justified. This quiet conditioning shapes how women express attraction long before they ever step into adult relationships. They learn to translate raw desire into acceptable language, connection, emotion, commitment, because those are safer words to stand behind. The desire itself never disappears, it simply goes underground, waiting for a space where it is allowed to exist without punishment. As a result, many men misread women's restraint as a lack of hunger. They assume women want less, need less, feel less. In reality, women often feel desire intensely, but internally, privately, and with a level of emotional awareness that makes them cautious about where they place it. Desire for a woman is rarely just physical, it's embodied, emotional, psychological, and deeply tied to safety. When she feels seen without being consumed, desired without being claimed, her attraction can be overwhelming in its depth. But because society rarely gives women permission to own that intensity openly, it emerges selectively, not loudly. This selective expression is often mistaken for passivity. Yet what looks like hesitation is frequently discernment. Women are taught that once desire is revealed, it cannot be taken back, that it will define how they are treated, respected, or valued. So they learn to test the environment before letting desire show itself. Is this person emotionally present? Will my wanting be honored or exploited? Can I express attraction without losing power? These questions don't dampen desire, they shape how carefully it is revealed and to whom. Men who believe women are primarily driven by romance often miss the truth that romance, for many women, is a doorway, not the destination. Emotional connection allows desire to surface safely, not because women need less lust, but because they need less threat. When the environment feels secure, desire doesn't need to be hidden or negotiated. It flows naturally, confidently, sometimes more intensely than men expect. This is why women can seem reserved one moment and deeply passionate the next. Nothing has changed except the level of trust and emotional grounding in the space between them. The tragedy is not that women hide their desire, but that so few environments invite it forward without consequence. Many women grow up believing that wanting too much will make them unlovable, and wanting too openly will make them disposable. So they learn to desire quietly, to feel deeply while appearing composed, to crave intensity while presenting calm. Beneath that restraint is not indifference, but a powerful current of longing shaped by years of learning, when it is safe to let it be seen, and when it is wiser to keep it folded inward, alive but unspoken, waiting for a presence strong enough and aware enough to hold it without fear or control. Emotional safety fuels female lust, not just physical attraction. While physical chemistry may spark initial interest, it is rarely what sustains or deepens desire for a woman. Female lust is responsive, not impulsive. It grows in environments where a woman feels emotionally held rather than emotionally watched. When she senses that her feelings won't be dismissed, rushed, or weaponized, her body relaxes and desire has space to breathe. Emotional safety tells her that she doesn't have to perform, defend, or explain herself to remain valued. In that relaxed state, attraction doesn't fade, it intensifies, because lust thrives where tension is paired with trust. For many women, desire is inseparable from how they feel around someone, not just how that person looks. A man may be physically attractive, confident, and socially admired, but if he is emotionally unpredictable, dismissive, or inconsistent, her desire struggles to root itself. Emotional safety doesn't mean softness or passivity. It means emotional clarity. It means she knows where she stands, that her vulnerability won't be punished, and that her presence is wanted rather than tolerated. When those conditions are met, desire becomes less guarded and more embodied, moving from thought to sensation, from curiosity to craving. This is why women can feel intense attraction for someone who may not fit conventional standards of attractiveness, while feeling little to no desire for someone who does. Emotional safety creates a permission structure inside her nervous system. It allows her to let go instead of staying alert. Female lust often requires a sense of surrender, not submission, but release. Release from self monitoring, from emotional uncertainty, from the fear of being misread or reduced. When a woman feels emotionally safe, she can inhabit her body fully rather than staying in her head. And that shift alone can transform attraction into something deeply visceral. Many men misunderstand emotional safety as emotional reassurance, but they are not the same. Constant validation does not create desire, it often erodes it. Emotional safety comes from consistency, presence, and groundedness, not over explaining or chasing. It's the sense that a man is emotionally steady, not reactive, open but not dependent. When a woman feels that steadiness, her desire doesn't feel risky, it feels earned. She doesn't fear that her lust will be used against her or disappear the moment she expresses it. Without emotional safety, female desire doesn't vanish, it goes dormant. A woman may still care, still love, still remain loyal, yet feel disconnected from her sexual self in the relationship. This isn't because she wants less intimacy, but because intimacy no longer feels like a place of rest. Desire cannot flourish where a woman feels emotionally tense, unseen, or uncertain. Her body reads those signals before her mind does, responding by pulling back, numbing sensation, or redirecting energy inward. When emotional safety is present, lust becomes expansive rather than cautious. It expresses itself in curiosity, playfulness, and depth. The woman no longer needs to ration her desire or protect it. She can want openly, confidently, without fear of being misunderstood or diminished, allowing attraction to evolve into something layered, powerful, and alive within the emotional space she feels secure enough to occupy. Men confuse being nice with being desired because they are often taught that attraction is a reward for good behavior. Many grow up believing that if they are respectful, agreeable, emotionally available, and accommodating, desire will naturally follow. Niceness becomes a strategy rather than a genuine expression of character, a way to earn affection instead of inspire attraction. While kindness is essential for trust and long term connection, it does not automatically generate desire. Desire responds to how a man shows up energetically, not just how well he behaves socially. When niceness is driven by fear of rejection or loss, it quietly replaces authenticity with approval seeking, and attraction struggles to survive in that space. Being desired requires presence, not performance. Women are highly attuned to emotional undercurrents, and they can sense when niceness is coming from insecurity rather than confidence. A man who is overly accommodating, who suppresses his opinions, boundaries, or direction to avoid conflict may appear safe but not compelling. Desire thrives on polarity, and polarity requires contrast. When a man flattens himself emotionally to be agreeable, he removes the tension that fuels attraction. The woman may appreciate him, trust him, even care deeply for him, but appreciation is not the same as desire. And safety without spark often turns into emotional closeness without sexual charge. Niceness also becomes problematic when it lacks self-respect. Men who prioritize being liked over being grounded often overgive, over-explain, and over-adjust. This creates an unspoken imbalance where the woman feels unconsciously responsible for his emotional state. Instead of feeling drawn toward him, she feels managed or emotionally crowded. Desire requires space to move. It cannot grow where a woman feels subtly burdened by the need to protect a man's feelings. Attraction pulls toward strength, clarity, and emotional independence, not toward emotional self-sacrifice disguised as kindness. Another reason niceness fails to create desire is because it avoids risk. Desire is inherently risky. It involves vulnerability, tension, and the possibility of rejection. Men who rely on niceness often avoid expressing clear interest, decisive action, or sexual confidence out of fear of being seen as inappropriate or unwanted. But when attraction is never named or embodied, it becomes diluted. Women respond to clarity more than caution. A man who knows what he wants and is unafraid to express it respectfully signals confidence, which is far more seductive than passive politeness. This confusion leads many men to feel resentful when their niceness is not reciprocated with desire. They believe they have done everything right and still feel overlooked. What they miss is that desire is not transactional. It is not a payment for good behavior. It is a response to energy, presence, and self-trust. When a man is kind because he is secure, not because he is seeking validation, that kindness carries weight. When he is calm in his boundaries, expressive in his intent, and comfortable with outcome independence, his presence becomes magnetic rather than merely pleasant. Being nice is not the problem. Confusing niceness with desirability is. True attraction arises when kindness is paired with self-assuredness, emotional depth, and direction. Without those elements, niceness remains appreciated but not craved, valued but not longed for, respected but not desired. Women don't lose interest in sex. They lose interest in feeling unseen. Sexual desire for many women is not a separate compartment that switches off randomly. It is deeply connected to how emotionally recognized they feel in the relationship. When a woman feels truly seen, heard without interruption, understood without being corrected, and valued beyond what she provides, desire flows naturally. But when her inner world is overlooked, minimized, or taken for granted, her body often responds before her words do. What appears as a loss of libido is frequently a response to emotional invisibility, a quiet withdrawal from a space where she no longer feels met. Feeling unseen doesn't always come from obvious neglect. It often grows slowly in small moments where her feelings are brushed past, her concerns are labeled as overreactions, or her emotional bids are acknowledged but not engaged with. Over time, she learns that expressing herself doesn't lead to connection, only explanation or dismissal. When that happens, she stops offering parts of herself. Desire requires presence, and presence cannot exist where someone feels emotionally alone. A woman may still show up physically, still care deeply, still want closeness, yet feel disconnected from her sexual self because that part of her no longer feels invited or welcomed. Many women internalize this shift and blame themselves. They assume something is wrong with them for not wanting sex the way they once did. But the body is often communicating what the mind has learned to silence. Sexual desire thrives on emotional resonance, on the feeling that who she is internally matters as much as how she shows up externally. When her emotional landscape becomes irrelevant to her partner, intimacy starts to feel like another obligation rather than an expression of closeness. In those moments, sex can feel performative instead of connective, draining instead of nourishing. Being unseen also disrupts polarity. When a woman feels she must constantly explain herself, manage emotions, or carry the emotional labor of the relationship, her nervous system remains in a state of alertness. Desire, however, requires relaxation. It requires the ability to let go, to be present in the body rather than the mind. Emotional invisibility keeps her vigilant, always monitoring whether she will be understood or dismissed. In that state, lust cannot deepen because the conditions for surrender are missing. This is why attempts to fix a lack of sexual interest through pressure, logic, or solutions often backfire. What is missing is not technique or frequency, it is attunement. Women feel desire when they feel emotionally met, when their inner experiences are not just tolerated but engaged with. Feeling seen doesn't mean constant agreement or perfection. It means genuine curiosity, emotional presence, and responsiveness. It means her partner notices shifts in her energy, listens beyond words, and remains open rather than defensive. When a woman begins to feel unseen, she doesn't stop wanting intimacy. She stops wanting to offer herself into a space where she feels invisible. Her desire doesn't disappear, it retreats inward, protecting itself from a dynamic that no longer feels mutual, responsive, or alive within the emotional space they share. Masculine presence matters more than looks or money because attraction is not built on external assets alone, but on the emotional and energetic experience a man creates when he enters a space. Presence is felt before it is understood. It's the calm confidence in how a man carries himself, the steadiness in his voice, and the ease with which he holds eye contact without seeking approval. A man can be physically attractive or financially successful, but without presence, those qualities feel hollow. Women respond less to what a man has and more to how he makes them feel in his proximity, and presence shapes that feeling at a fundamental level. Masculine presence comes from being grounded in oneself rather than performing for attention. It's the difference between a man who is centered and one who is constantly scanning for validation. When a man is comfortable with who he is, he doesn't rush, over explain, or fill silence out of anxiety. That comfort creates a sense of stability that women intuitively respond to. It signals emotional safety and strength without needing to be announced. This kind of presence allows a woman to relax into her own energy because she doesn't feel the need to manage or compensate for his internal state. Looks and money may open doors, but presence determines whether someone wants to stay inside the room. A man with strong presence doesn't rely on status to command attention. He naturally draws it. His boundaries are clear, his intentions are honest, and his actions align with his words. That consistency builds trust, and trust deepens attraction. When a woman senses that a man is internally coherent, meaning his thoughts, emotions, and behavior are aligned, she feels more inclined to engage, to open, and to explore connection beyond surface level interest. Another reason presence outweighs external markers is that it creates polarity. Polarity thrives on contrast, and masculine presence provides that contrast through decisiveness, emotional containment, and direction. A man who can lead himself can also lead interactions without control or force. This leadership isn't about dominance, it's about clarity. When a woman feels that clarity, she doesn't have to guess, chase, or fill in emotional gaps. That relief allows attraction to grow because desire flourishes in environments where roles feel balanced rather than blurred. Money and looks are often mistaken as substitutes for presence because they are easier to measure. Presence, however, is embodied. It's felt in how a man listens without interrupting, how he responds instead of reacts, and how he remains steady during emotional moments. These qualities create a sense of depth that surface level traits cannot replicate. A man with presence doesn't need to prove himself. He allows others to experience him, and that experience carries weight. When masculine presence is absent, even wealth and beauty lose their impact over time. Without presence, interactions feel transactional or performative. With presence, even ordinary moments feel charged with meaning. Women are drawn to men who are emotionally anchored, self aware, and comfortable holding space without needing to control it, because that presence invites connection, trust, and desire to emerge naturally within the shared emotional field. Lust dies when polarity disappears because desire depends on contrast, tension, and energetic difference. Polarity is the invisible dynamic that creates attraction between two people, the push and pull that makes closeness feel charged rather than flat. When polarity is present, there is movement between masculine and feminine energy, between direction and surrender, between stability and flow. When it fades, intimacy may remain, but the spark that fuels lust begins to weaken. The relationship can feel emotionally close, yet sexually distant, not because love is gone, but because the dynamic that once created desire has quietly dissolved. Polarity often disappears when roles blur and emotional balance is lost. When one begins to over-adapt, over-explain, or over-function, the relationship shifts from dynamic to static. Many men unintentionally dissolve polarity by abandoning their grounded presence in an effort to keep the connection comfortable. They become overly accommodating, emotionally reactive, or hesitant to lead, believing this will create harmony. Instead, it removes the tension that desire feeds on. Lust needs a sense of direction and containment. Without it, attraction loses its edge and becomes familiarity without charge. Another way polarity fades is through emotional overexposure. Constant availability, predictability, and lack of personal boundaries can drain the mystery and independence that fuel desire. When everything is shared immediately and nothing is held back, the relationship loses its rhythm. Polarity thrives when each person maintains a strong sense of self, allowing closeness to be chosen rather than consumed. Without that separation, intimacy can begin to feel smothering rather than seductive, safe but unstimulating. Women often experience the loss of polarity as a subtle shift rather than a sudden change. They may feel less drawn, less curious, less inclined toward physical intimacy without fully understanding why. It's not that they want distance, it's that the energetic exchange no longer excites them. When a man stops leading emotionally or energetically, she may find herself stepping into that role unconsciously. As she becomes more directive, more emotionally managing, the dynamic flips. Desire struggles to survive when she feels responsible for the emotional tone of the relationship. Polarity is also lost when conflict is avoided instead of navigated. Tension does not kill desire, unresolved tension does. Healthy polarity allows for disagreement, challenge, and emotional honesty without collapse. When one partner suppresses their truth to keep peace, the relationship becomes emotionally muted. Lust requires aliveness, and aliveness includes friction. Without it, interactions become polite, predictable, and emotionally flat, eroding the energetic charge that once fueled attraction. When polarity disappears, sex often becomes routine or fades altogether, not because intimacy is unwanted, but because the dynamic no longer invites it. Desire needs a sense of movement, a feeling that something is unfolding rather than stagnating. Restoring lust is rarely about novelty or technique. It's about restoring energetic balance. When each partner reclaims their center and allows difference to exist without fear, polarity can reemerge, and with it, the natural tension that keeps desire alive within the relationship dynamic. When all of this is understood together, one truth becomes clear. Desire is not something women lose, withhold, or forget. It is something that responds. It responds to being seen, to emotional safety, to grounded presence, and to polarity that is alive rather than flattened. Lust fades not because love disappears, but because the conditions that once allowed desire to breathe quietly erode over time. When attraction is reduced to niceness, routines, or surface level effort, intimacy turns mechanical and connection turns invisible. Women want lust as much as they want love, but they want it in a way that feels safe, conscious, and mutually alive. They don't crave pressure or persuasion. They crave presence, clarity, and emotional depth. Desire flourishes when a man stands rooted in himself, when he leads without controlling, listens without disappearing, and holds space without demanding. In that environment, lust doesn't need to be chased or manufactured. It naturally resurfaces because it was never gone, only waiting for a dynamic that could sustain it.